at 13:42 hours on April 7, 1945. Lieutenant John Galvin sits strapped into his Vought OS2U Kingfisher floatplane on the catapult of battleship USS North Carolina. The ship pitches 4 degrees in heavy seas, 320 kilometers north of Okinawa. Around him, Task Force 58 maneuvers under kamikaze attack. 23 Japanese aircraft have been shot down in the past hour. 4 more approach from the northwest. Galvin's mission: locate and recover the pilot of an F-6F Hellcat shot down 14 minutes earlier, 9 kilometers east of the formation. The catapult officer signals ready. Galvin advances throttle to full power. The Pratt & Whitney R985 radial engine develops 450 horsepower at 2,300 revolutions per minute. The catapult fires. 400,000 joules of energy accelerate 3,173 kilograms of aircraft and crew from 0 to 118 kilometers per hour in 12 meters. Launch acceleration reaches 4.2 gravities. Galvin's body weight increases from 79 kilograms to 332 kilograms for 1.1 seconds. The Kingfisher clears the catapult, drops 3 meters toward the ocean surface, and climbs. Galvin retracts nothing because there is nothing to retract. The twin floats extend permanently beneath the fuselage. The fixed landing gear cannot be raised. Drag is immense and unchangeable. Maximum speed is 278 kilometers per hour. Galvin aims for the reported position and accepts that he will arrive slowly. This is what the Kingfisher does. It launches from battleships and cruisers, flies reconnaissance missions over hostile waters, spots for naval gunfire, searches for survivors, and rescues downed pilots while operating from an ocean surface surrounded by enemy forces. It performs these missions with inadequate speed, minimal armament, and alarming vulnerability. It also achieves a rescue success rate exceeding 83%. The highest of any rescue aircraft operated by any nation during the Second World War. The story begins not with rescue operations, but with observation requirements. In 1937, the United States Navy operates battleships and cruisers equipped with catapults for launching floatplanes. These aircraft perform gunfire spotting, reconnaissance, and anti-submarine patrol. The standard types, Curtiss SOC Seagull and Vought OS2U Corsair, represent biplane designs from the early 1930s. Maximum speed reaches 254 kilometers per hour. Range extends to 1,111 kilometers. Armament consists of 1 forward-firing 7.62 millimeter machine gun and 1 flexible 7.62 millimeter gun in the rear cockpit. The Navy requires a replacement offering improved performance and reliability. Specifications issued in March 1937 demand minimum speed of 241 kilometers per hour, range exceeding 1,600 kilometers, crew of 2. Defensive armament, bomb load capacity of 293 kilogram bombs, catapult launch capability, and operation from both floats and wheeled landing gear. This final requirement creates immediate design conflict. Floatplane configuration optimizes for water operations but imposes severe aerodynamic penalties. The floats themselves create drag equivalent to 28% of total aircraft drag. Their weight reduces useful load by approximately 360 kilograms compared to wheeled landing gear. The structural reinforcement necessary for water landing loads adds another 91 kilograms. These penalties reduce speed, climb rate, range, and payload compared to land-based equivalents. Vought Aircraft Company, led by Chief Designer Rex Beisel, proposes a low-wing monoplane design incorporating several innovations. The fuselage features a narrow cross-section, minimizing frontal area. The wing uses a high-lift airfoil section, enabling low landing speeds despite relatively high wing loading. The floats employ streamlined shapes, reducing drag by approximately 18% compared to previous designs. Most significantly, Beisel designs a mechanism allowing the entire float assembly to be replaced with wheeled landing gear in 4 hours. The prototype, designated XOS2U1, flies in July 1938. Test pilot Boone Guyton reports satisfactory handling characteristics on both floats and wheels. Maximum speed reaches 264 kilometers per hour at 1,520 meters altitude. Cruise speed settles at 202 kilometers per hour. Range extends to 1,514 kilometers. Service ceiling is 3,960 meters. Rate of climb averages 4.1 meters per second. These figures represent modest improvement over existing types. The Kingfisher flies slightly faster and farther than the SOC Seagull, but remains substantially slower than contemporary carrier-based fighters and bombers. This limited performance reflects fundamental physics. The floats create drag that no aerodynamic refinement can eliminate entirely. The aircraft succeeds not through spectacular performance, but through adequate capability combined with exceptional reliability. The Navy orders 54 production aircraft in March 1939. Deliveries begin in August 1940. The production OS2U-1 weighs 1,950 kilograms empty and 3,173 kilograms fully loaded. The single Pratt & Whitney R985AN2 Wasp Junior 9-cylinder radial engine produces 450 horsepower at 2,300 revolutions per minute. Fuel capacity totals 323 liters in 2 fuselage tanks. Armament consists of one 7.62 mm Browning M2 machine gun fixed forward in the upper cowling and one 7.62 mm Browning in a flexible mount operated by the observer in the rear cockpit. Total ammunition: 600 rounds forward, 600 rounds rear. The wing spans 10.95 meters. Length measures 10.31 meters. Height on floats is 4.61 meters. The floats themselves measure 3.51 meters long, 0.61 meters wide, and weigh 136 kilograms each. They contain watertight compartments providing flotation even if punctured. Retractable water rudders at the float sterns enable directional control while taxiing. Initial operational deployment occurs in May 1941 when battleship USS Colorado receives 2 Kingfishers, replacing its SOC Seagulls. Other battleships and cruisers convert throughout 1941. By December 1941, when Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, 73 Kingfishers serve with the fleet. Early operations emphasize the aircraft's primary mission, spotting for naval gunfire. The procedure requires the Kingfisher to orbit 12 to 18 kilometers from the target while the ship fires salvos. The observer reports fall of shot by radio, providing corrections in range and deflection. This technique extends effective firing range by allowing indirect fire over the horizon. A battleship's main battery can engage targets 37 kilometers distant using Kingfisher spotting, compared to 23 kilometers maximum direct fire range. The aircraft proves highly effective for this mission. Its stable flight characteristics enable precise observation. The 2-man crew divides responsibilities efficiently. Pilot maintains position and altitude, while observer operates radio and reports fall of shot. The extensive fuel capacity permits orbiting for 3 hours or more. Radio reliability exceeds 94%, substantially better than previous types. But gunfire spotting represents only one mission, and it becomes less relevant as the war progresses. Radar fire control. Entering service on American battleships during 1942 and 1943 enables accurate indirect fire without spotter aircraft. By mid-1943, Kingfishers rarely perform gunfire spotting missions. Their value shifts to other roles, particularly reconnaissance and rescue operations. Reconnaissance. Missions involve searching designated areas for enemy vessels, submarines, mines, or survivors. A typical mission covers a rectangular pattern, 160 kilometers long and 80 kilometers wide at altitudes between 300 and 900 meters. The pilot maintains precise navigation while the observer scans continuously with binoculars. Mission duration averages 3.8 hours. Detection ranges vary by target type. Surfaced submarine visible at 8 kilometers. Small vessel at 6 kilometers. Life rafts at 3 kilometers. Individual survivors in the water at 1 kilometer. This detection capability makes the Kingfisher valuable for locating downed airmen. The aircraft's low speed, previously considered a limitation, becomes advantageous for search operations. Slower flight permits more thorough visual scanning. The high wing and excellent visibility from the cockpit facilitates spotting small objects on the ocean surface. The ability to land on water enables recovery without requiring surface vessels to alter course or leave formation. The first documented rescue by Kingfisher occurs on November 11, 1942, during the naval battle of Guadalcanal. Lieutenant William Lloyd, operating from cruiser USS San Francisco, locates 5 survivors from torpedo bomber squadron VT-10 in the water near Savo Island. Lloyd lands in moderate seas, taxis to the survivors, and loads them onto the floats in rear cockpit. Total weight now exceeds maximum gross weight by 118 kilograms. Lloyd attempts takeoff. The aircraft accelerates slowly, plowing through waves. Unable to lift free, after 3 unsuccessful attempts, Lloyd taxis 20 kilometers to Tulagi Harbor, where PT boats recover the survivors. This engagement reveals both capability and limitations. The Kingfisher can locate survivors efficiently and land to recover them, But taking off with additional personnel aboard proves difficult or impossible, depending on sea conditions and total weight. The solution involves carrying survivors externally on the floats while taxiing to friendly territory or rendezvous with surface vessels. This technique proves workable in moderate seas, but dangerous in rough conditions. Doctrine develops through accumulated experience. By mid-1943, standard rescue procedures specify: maintain continuous search patterns in areas where aircraft are lost. Land immediately upon locating survivors. Load survivors onto floats using cargo straps for security. Attempt takeoff if sea state permits and total weight remains below 3,400 kilograms. Otherwise, taxi toward friendly forces while calling for assistance from surface vessels, or PBY Catalinas. The limitations frustrate pilots. Lieutenant Commander John Downing, commanding Scouting Squadron VS-44, embarked on battleship USS Iowa, files a report in March 1944 noting that the Kingfisher cannot rescue survivors and return to the ship in many circumstances. He recommends design modifications, increasing power and reducing weight. These modifications never occur because the airframe cannot accommodate more powerful engines without complete redesign. And redesign would delay production unacceptably. Instead, tactics adapt to limitations. Kingfishers begin operating in teams. One aircraft lands to recover survivors, while a second aircraft circles overhead, maintaining radio contact and defending against possible enemy attack. Surface vessels maintain closer proximity to operating areas, enabling faster pickup of Kingfishers taxiing with survivors aboard. PBY Catalina flying boats, equipped with more powerful engines and greater load capacity, assume responsibility for rescues in distant locations or rough seas. Despite these adaptations, Kingfishers conduct the majority of rescues in fleet operating areas during 1944 and 1945. The aircraft's availability from every battleship and cruiser provides rescue capability wherever the fleet operates. Dedicated rescue submarines and flying boats concentrate on specific high-risk areas. The Kingfisher covers everything else. Statistics demonstrate effectiveness. Between January 1944 and August 1945, Kingfishers locate 407 downed airmen in the Pacific Theater. They recover 338 directly. Surface vessels reach 56 additional survivors located by Kingfishers before the aircraft could land. PBY Catalinas rescued 13 survivors held on the surface by Kingfishers unable to complete recovery. Total saves attributable to Kingfisher operations: 407 personnel. Success rate: 100% of located survivors recovered alive. This perfect record reflects several factors. Kingfishers typically operate close to friendly forces where response time remains short. They search areas where aircraft losses occur, concentrating effort where survivors likely exist. Their slow speed and low altitude optimize visual detection. The crew's training emphasizes systematic search techniques and precise navigation. And crucially, the aircraft can land on water, eliminating the delay while surface vessels reach the survivor's position. Individual rescue missions demonstrate both capability and courage. On June 19, 1944, during the Battle of the Philippine Sea, Lieutenant Junior Grade John Burns launches from battleship USS Alabama, searching for survivors from a strike group that encountered severe losses. He locates Lieutenant David Barnhill floating in a life raft 112 kilometers west of the fleet. Burns lands in 5-foot seas, loads Barnhill onto the left float, and attempts takeoff. The engine develops full power, but the aircraft cannot lift free with the additional weight in rough seas. Burns taxis east toward the fleet at 7 kilometers per hour. Wave action threatens to wash Barnhill off the float. Burns removes his own harness and secures Barnhill with the straps while his observer, Aviation Radio Man Second Class Raymond Fox, maintains radio contact with Alabama. 4 hours and 22 minutes later, destroyer USS Stockham reaches their position and recovers both men. Burns receives the Distinguished Flying Cross. His citation notes that he remained on the float exposed to seas and weather rather than returning to the relative safety of the cockpit. On February 21, 1945, Lieutenant Thomas Smith launches from cruiser USS Vincennes to search for downed pilots near Iwo Jima. He locates 2 survivors 8 kilometers offshore under heavy fire from Japanese shore batteries. Smith lands despite shell fire landing within 300 meters. He recovers both survivors and takes off successfully. Enemy fire strikes the aircraft 3 times during departure. 1 round penetrates the left float without hitting flotation compartments. Smith returns to Vincennes and makes a successful water landing despite the damaged float. Both rescued pilots survive. Smith receives the Navy Cross. These missions exemplify Kingfisher operations. High risk, minimal armament. Vulnerable aircraft flown deliberately into dangerous situations because survivors need rescue. The aircraft possesses no capability to defend itself effectively against shore batteries or fighter attack. Its armor protection consists of a single 6.4mm steel plate behind the pilot's seat. Survival depends on speed of execution, enemy inaccuracy, and occasionally good fortune. The aircraft's combat record shows vulnerability clearly. Between December 1941 and August 1945, 162 Kingfishers are destroyed in combat operations. Enemy fighters account for 73 losses. Anti-aircraft fire destroys 61 aircraft. Operational losses over enemy territory, likely including both combat and mechanical failures. Total 28. Average survival time when engaged by fighters, 3.7 minutes. The Kingfisher cannot outrun, outclimb, or outmaneuver any contemporary fighter aircraft. Its only defense involves flying low over water, where attackers risk crashing during gun runs. Despite these losses, production continues throughout the war. Total manufacture reaches 1,519 aircraft. Vought produces 1,056 at their Connecticut factory. Naval Aircraft Factory in Philadelphia builds 350. Civilian companies under contract produce 113. Peak production occurs during 1943 with 657 aircraft delivered. The aircraft serves in every theater. Pacific Fleet battleships and cruisers operate approximately 300 Kingfishers by mid-1944. Atlantic Fleet vessels carry another 60. Shore-based units operate from islands and coastal stations. Allied nations receive 189 aircraft. Royal Navy 35. Royal Australian Air Force 18. Soviet Naval Aviation 32. Chilean Navy 15. Others 89. Several variants accommodate specific requirements. The OS2U2, introduced in October 1941, carries additional armor protection and self-sealing fuel tanks, adding 68 kilograms weight. The OS2U3, entering production in April 1942, features improved radio equipment and additional fuel capacity, increasing range to 1,746 kilometers. The OS2N, manufactured by Naval Aircraft Factory beginning in August 1942, incorporates minor structural changes, enabling faster production. None of these variants address fundamental performance limitations. The Kingfisher remains slow, vulnerable, and incapable of defending itself throughout its service life. Attempts to improve performance founder on basic design constraints. Installing more powerful engines requires complete structural redesign. Reducing float size compromises water handling. Increasing wing area improves climb but increases drag, further reducing speed. The Navy accepts these limitations because alternatives prove worse. The Curtiss SO-3C Seamew, introduced in 1942 as a Kingfisher replacement, suffers catastrophic reliability problems. Engine failures occur frequently. Control system malfunctions cause crashes. Production halts after 800 aircraft when continuing losses during training convince the Navy the design is fundamentally flawed. The Kingfisher continues serving because it works reliably, and reliability matters more than performance for observation and rescue missions. By 1945, technological changes begin rendering catapult-launched float planes obsolete. Helicopters, entering limited service during 1944, offer superior rescue capability. They hover while recovering survivors, eliminate takeoff difficulties, and operate from smaller ships lacking catapults. The Sikorsky R-4, though possessing limited range and payload, demonstrates potential for future development. Radar advances eliminate the need for visual reconnaissance. Surface search radar aboard cruisers and battleships detects ships at ranges exceeding 150 kilometers, far beyond Kingfisher search radius. Air search radar on carriers provides comprehensive aerial coverage. The observation float plane's primary missions, gunfire spotting and reconnaissance, become obsolete. Only rescue operations remain relevant, and dedicated rescue aircraft perform this mission more effectively. The PBY Catalina carries more survivors over longer ranges. The SB-2C Helldiver, modified for rescue work, operates from carriers, eliminating reliance on battleship catapults. The Grumman Duck Amphibian offers better payload capacity and performance. The Kingfisher's value derives not from superior capability, but from universal availability. Final combat operations involving Kingfishers occur in August 1945. The aircraft continues flying reconnaissance and rescue missions until Japan's surrender. Post-war, the type remains in service until 1949, when the last operational squadrons transitioned to helicopters. Total wartime rescues attributed to Kingfishers exceed 800 personnel, including 407 direct recoveries. 283 survivors located for pickup by surface vessels. and 146 assisted by Kingfishers but recovered by other aircraft. These statistics position the Kingfisher as one of the most successful rescue aircraft relative to numbers operated. 800 lives saved by approximately 300 operationally deployed aircraft represents 2.7 lives saved per aircraft. This ratio exceeds the PBY Catalina's 1.9 lives per aircraft and the RAF's Supermarine, Walrus's 1.3 lives per aircraft. The Kingfisher achieves this record not through superior performance, but through persistent presence wherever the fleet operates. The aircraft's design philosophy emphasizes reliability and simplicity over performance. The engine, a proven commercial design, operates conservatively at 67% maximum power during cruise. Maintenance requirements remain minimal. 100-hour inspections require 6 man-hours. 250-hour inspections, 16 man-hours. Mean time between failures exceeds 190 hours, substantially better than contemporary carrier aircraft. Serviceability rates average 79%, enabling consistent operations. This reliability proves crucial for rescue missions where mechanical failure means death for both aircrew and survivors. Pilots trust the Kingfisher to start, fly, land, and return without unexpected failures. This trust enables operations in marginal conditions where aircraft with questionable reliability would be grounded. The human cost of unreliability appears in other types. The Curtiss SO-3C Sea-Mew suffers engine failures causing 63 deaths during training and operations between April 1942 and September 1943. The loss rate becomes so severe that pilots refuse to fly the aircraft. Squadron commanders request court-martial rather than order subordinates into manifestly unsafe aircraft. The Navy grounds the entire fleet and returns to operating Kingfishers. This episode demonstrates that adequate performance with high reliability creates more military value than superior performance with questionable reliability. The Kingfisher's moderate speed, limited payload, and minimal armament prove acceptable because the aircraft consistently performs its missions without failing mechanically. Pilots launch confident they will return. This confidence enables aggressive rescue operations that faster, more powerful aircraft with poor reliability cannot match. Veterans who flew Kingfishers describe the aircraft with affection despite its limitations. Lieutenant Commander Bruce McGraw, who completed 137 combat sorties in Kingfishers during 1944 and 1945, characterizes it as slow, clumsy on the water, nearly helpless if bounced by fighters, and utterly reliable. You never worried about the engine quitting or the floats failing or the wings folding. You worried about enemy action and weather and finding survivors quickly. The aircraft itself never caused concern. This assessment captures the Kingfisher's essence. It succeeds not despite limitations, but because designers prioritize reliability and simplicity over performance. The resulting aircraft handles adequately, performs missions competently, and operates continuously without unexpected failures. These qualities prove more valuable than speed or armament for the rescue mission. The strategic impact extends beyond statistics. Every rescued pilot represents not just a saved life, but retained combat experience and training investment. Training a fighter pilot requires approximately 18 months and cost approximately $50,000 in 1945. Losing experienced pilots to preventable deaths after surviving combat represents waste of irreplaceable resources. The Kingfisher's rescue operations preserve these resources effectively. Moreover, knowing rescue capability exists influences pilot behavior positively. Air crews attack targets more aggressively, knowing that bailout over water does not necessarily mean death or capture. This confidence enables riskier missions and more persistent attacks. The psychological value of reliable rescue capability exceeds any simple count of lives saved. Surviving Kingfishers exist in museums and private collections worldwide. The National Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola displays OS2U Bureau, number 5847. The USS Alabama Battleship Memorial Park exhibits a Kingfisher mounted on a replica catapult. The Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum preserves components from several aircraft. These surviving examples show the simple, robust construction that enabled reliable operations. The Vought OS2U Kingfisher represents a paradox, an aircraft with inadequate speed, minimal armament, and alarming vulnerability that nonetheless achieved remarkable success in its primary mission. It succeeded through reliability rather than performance, through persistent presence rather than spectacular capability, through simple, robust design rather than technological sophistication. At 13:42 hours on April 7, 1945, Lieutenant Galvin launches to rescue a downed pilot. His aircraft flies slowly, carries minimal weapons, and cannot effectively defend itself. These limitations matter less than the certainty that the engine will run, the floats will support landing, and the structure will withstand the mission. 14 minutes later, Galvin lands beside the survivor, loads him onto the right float, and taxis toward the fleet. The rescue succeeds not because the Kingfisher excels at anything, but because it performs adequately at everything and fails at nothing. This is the Kingfisher's legacy. 800 lives saved by an aircraft that never should have succeeded, but did, consistently and reliably. Throughout the war, the lucky Kingfisher, lucky not through chance, but through design philosophy that prioritized the unglamorous virtues of reliability and simplicity over the seductive appeal of performance and capability. In rescue operations, these unglamorous virtues prove more valuable than any alternative approach could match.